On a quiet summer afternoon in May 2003, something happened in a small apartment in Paper Mill Colony, Lucknow. Something so explosive, so tangled in power and passion that it shook the very core of Uttar Pradesh's political landscape. It began with a woman, a poet, a dreamer, a name whispered in hushed conversations laced with scandal, fear, and obsession. Madhumita Shukla. She wasn't just another aspiring poet. She had ventured deep into a world where power and ambition clashed in ways most could never imagine. This is a story of deception, of secrets buried beneath layers of political intrigue and betrayals. What really happened in that apartment? Who had something to gain? And most importantly, who had something to hide? Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime Podcast, a show where we dive deep into some of the craziest cases from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryaan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And the case that we have for you today will take you right to the heartland of India and my homeland, Uttar Pradesh.
Our homeland.
Our homeland.
And a case that I have no idea of from our homeland. I feel like our listeners don't fully believe when we say we don't know about the other person's case. But I swear to God, I have not the slightest idea.
And this is a case that I would have thought as a true crime junkie who happens to be from UP.
Yeah.
This case is something at least murmurs of which you should have heard. But
the name sounds familiar, but that's
I was today when coming up to the studio, your mom heard that I'm covering Madhumita Shukla case and she had this pale look on her face. Are you sure you want to cover it? Is it safe to cover it? Because a lot of political people are involved, but we don't shy away from that. It's a story that deserves to be told. And in this episode, I will let you know it. Before we begin, I'd like to express my gratitude to journalist Amita Verma, whose book Poetry, Passion and Politics provided invaluable insights into this case, as well as the Discovery Plus documentary Love Kills, which offered crucial perspectives that helped bring the story to life. Now, let's step into the world of Madhumita Shukla, where poetry met power, where love met ambition, and where a single decision changed everything. A narrow alley in the heart of Lakhimpur, Uttar Pradesh, the kind where rainwater collects in pools, where life moves at its own unhurried pace. At the end of the lane, a small house stands, a quadrangle of rooms built around a courtyard. Modest, neat, and inside it, a family. On April 30th, 1981, a girl is born to Kamta Prasad Shukla, a low-rung government employee, and his wife, Shanti. She's their second daughter, an occasion that is perhaps not celebrated in every household, but here, in this little home, she's different, special. Her father looks into her wide almond-shaped eyes and declares she will be the tiger of the family. They call her Choti Pari, the little fairy. As a child, Madhumita is restless, curious. While other children play in the dust, she sits on the staircase, lost in her own world, scribbling on scraps of paper, whispering verses under her breath. Her mother notices, her teachers notice. This child is different. Then comes the moment that changes everything. One evening during Dashera, her family attends a Kavi Sammelan, a gathering of poets. The hall is packed, anticipation thick in the air. The biggest names in poetry are present, and in the midst of it all, an 11-year-old girl tugs at her mother's sleeve. Quote, "I want to recite my poem," she says. Her mother hesitates. This is no place for children. But Madhumita, she is insistent, determined. A break comes in the program. She walks up to the organizers. They allow her on the stage, and as she faces the crowd, hundreds, maybe thousands, she does not flinch. No fear, no hesitation. Just poetry. That night, a star is born. A poet finds her voice, and the world takes notice. Poetry becomes her escape, her rebellion, her weapon. She speaks of the nation, of politics, of injustice. She writes with fire, and soon her words are not just words, they are power. By the time she's 16, she is gracing the stage at several Kavi Sammelans, her voice carrying across halls filled with people. Poetry becomes Madhumita's lifeline. Encouraged by the applause, she pushes her way onto more stages, refusing to be ignored. Now she's a fixture at poetry gatherings. But in 1996, something else happens. Her father, Kamta Prasad, the pillar of the family, falls from the terrace in a freak accident. The injuries are severe, treatment fails, and suddenly the home that once echoed with laughter is plunged into silence. For Madhumita, childhood ends that day. At just 15, she takes charge. Looking her siblings in the eye, Vijay, Nidhi, little Sunny, she declares, "From now on, I am your father." Poetry becomes survival. She increases her performance, sometimes earning a pittance, sometimes nothing at all. But recognition grows. She starts writing on issues that make people listen: social injustice, political corruption, communal tensions. Her words carry fire, and fire in a world like this attracts both light and danger. Her ambition burns brighter. She dreams of lifting her family out of poverty. She dreams of fame. She dreams of giving her mother a life of dignity, of ensuring her siblings never have to struggle the way she did. Every performance, every word is a step towards that dream. And soon, the doors of elite start to open. Politicians take notice. One in particular, Amarmani Tripathi.
Aryaan, this is so interesting to me. You, I think, are the best poet in my life. He's going to flinch when I say that, but I genuinely think he writes beautifully. So you would know this better. But what is the poetry scene like in smaller Indian cities? Is this a thing? Like, I've never heard of this. I had never even heard that there are Kavi Sammelans. Is there money to be made at all? Is there a progression? What's the scene?
I don't know if there's money to be made, as is true for almost any creative field where is there money to be made, at least in the nascent stages of it. But I think the poetry circle, if you take a step behind the, what's it called, slam poetry, where we, us young Gen Zers, we click fingers. That's what we do in cities, tier 1 cities.
Right.
But tier 2 and below, Kavi Sammelans are very popular. And many politicians today started off as poet. Kumar Biswas, who's the Delhi politician, was also a poet, and he still does Kavi Sammelans. So yeah, it is a thriving scene. Money to be made, I don't know.
Not so much. But what an interesting trajectory from poetry to politics as well, or vice versa. Yeah. Fascinating.
Now, Amarmani Tripathi took notice, and he's a powerful man. A dangerous man. A poet's pen can be mightier than the sword, but sometimes it paints a target on the heart. Born on Valentine's Day in 1956, Amarmani Tripathi's life was anything but romantic. His birthplace, Narayanpur, a small village in the Maharajganj district, was steeped in the socio-political turbulence of eastern Uttar Pradesh. This was a region where caste wasn't just an identity. It was power, and sometimes it was a weapon. Born into a Brahmin family, Tripathi's influence was challenged during the 1980s by the rise of rival caste groups, particularly the Thakurs, creating a volatile backdrop against which he would later build his career. Eastern Uttar Pradesh, with its rich political legacy, has been the cradle of many prominent Indian leaders, including Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and the current Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath. This might sound like a history class, but it's essential to understand just how integral Eastern UP was to the politics of India, a region where village and caste played a part in shaping the nation's power dynamics. The volatile environment became the crucible in which Tripathi's sharp political instincts were forged. Growing up amid these seismic power shifts, he was a keen observer of the rivalries and alliances that dictated life in eastern Uttar Pradesh. For Amarmani, power wasn't just an aspiration, it was a necessity, a survival tool in a world where only the strong thrived. His journey into politics wasn't an accident, it was the result of deliberate calculation. His apprenticeship began under Hari Shankar Tiwari, a name that evoked both fear and respect in the Gorakhpur Basti belt. Tiwari, a strong man, had mastered the art of wielding muscle and money to dominate the political landscape. For the young and ambitious Tripathi, Tiwari wasn't just a mentor, he was a living blueprint, a symbol of how raw power could be transformed into unassailable authority. Tiwari's methods were unorthodox, to say the least. Violence wasn't just a last resort, it was a tool. To one who holds a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And Amarmani, that eager apprentice, learned quickly. His ability to navigate the treacherous waters of caste politics set him apart. By the 1980s, eastern Uttar Pradesh, Purvanchal, was a tinderbox. At the heart of this was a brutal rivalry. Harishankar Tiwari's Brahmin faction against Virendra Pratap Shahi's Thakur faction. This wasn't politics as usual. These were battles fought not just in assembly halls but on the streets, with weapons drawn and lives lost. Amar Mani's political career officially began in 1980 when he contested the Lakshmipur assembly seat as an independent candidate. It was a bold move, given the intense rivalry and violence that characterized the region's election. This was no ordinary campaign. Allegations of voter intimidation and violence marred the process. In one dramatic incident, he was also accused of attempting to kidnap his rival, Fateh Bahadur Singh, who had refused to withdraw from the race. Though he ultimately lost the election, Tripathi's determination was clear. He secured over 19,000 votes, marking him as a force to reckon with. Undeterred by his initial failure, Tripathi contested the Lakshmipur seat again in 1985 and 1989. Slowly, he built his network of supporters, blending alliances and coercion. His persistence paid off in 1989 when he finally won the seat as an independent candidate, a rarity. However, by this time, his relationship with Harishankar Tiwari had soured. Ambitious and pragmatic, Tripathi began carving out his own political identity, often by aligning with his former mentor's rivals. Tripathi's rise in UP politics was characterized by opportunism and willingness to shift allegiances. Over the next decade, he joined multiple political parties, leveraging their platforms to consolidate power. His tenure with the Bahujan Samaj (BSP) party in the mid-1990s proved to be the most significant. In 1996, Tripathi won the Lakshmipur Assembly seat again, this time as a BSP candidate. This victory catapulted him into the state cabinet as a minister. However, his tenure wasn't without controversy. Allegations of corruption, land grabbing, and abuse of power followed him wherever he went. Locals in Maharajganj accused Tripathi of forcibly acquiring properties, including agricultural lands in Nichlol and an oil mill in Nathwana, which he allegedly turned into his personal office. Despite these allegations, Tripathi's reputation as a strongman only grew. During this period, he also established a network of schools and colleges in his constituency, seemingly to promote education. These institutions became symbols of power and influence instead. It was during one such event, at a poetry gathering, that he first encountered Madhumita Shukla, the aspiring poet. Now, theirs is a relationship born in the public eye, yet shrouded in secrecy. The much older, married politician became infatuated with the young poet, showering her with attention. The details of their relationship were whispered in political circles and literary gatherings. February 22nd, the day their paths first crossed, their eyes first met, sparks flew. Amar Mani was taken by her boldness, her indifference to power, and her unfiltered words. Madhumita, on the other hand, was drawn to his stature, his influence, his ability to turn dreams into reality. That day, he strikes up a conversation with her. She responds with ease, and so the beginning of a connection that would alter both their lives forever began. The next meeting happens under different circumstances. Madhumita is the one who approaches Amar Mani for a favor. Her brother needs a job. Within days, the request is granted. A silent agreement is forged. He opens doors for her, and she welcomes him into her world. Amar Mani ensured that Madhumita is invited to all Kavi Sammelans where she can shine. Her confidence grows, her career takes off, and so does their relationship. Soon he is not just a mentor or a benefactor. He is her provider, her protector, and her lover. But as we know, relationships built on power and secrecy rarely remain hidden for long. Madhumita and her sister Nidhi, once moving between relatives' homes, now had their own space, courtesy of Amar Mani. He buys them a small house in Lucknow's paper mill colony, a modest 2-room dwelling, but a sanctuary. By now, Amar Mani is a frequent visitor. He provides Madhumita money, travel, clothes, a government car with a red siren. And boy, she revels in it. Police officers salute her at signals. She dines in 5-star hotels. She threatens shopkeepers and acquaintances with the power of connection to Mantriji. But then a scandal erupts. In 2001, Madhumita travels to Udaipur for a Kavi Sammelan. She stays with a local businessman, Inder Mehta, whom she calls her brother. Days later, a police report is filed. Madhumita is accused of stealing jewelry worth 1.5 lakh rupees. She is humiliated, arrested, cornered, and then out of nowhere, Amar Mani swoops in. He flies to Udaipur, handles the legal mess, and brings her back.
Aryaan, obviously the power dynamic in this relationship, the fact that he's obviously got a wife, he's got a family, completely skewed. Yeah. And that's, I feel like, a separate conversation. But there is something to be said about becoming increasingly more financially indebted to your partner. and how that will skew a relationship's dynamic, whether or not there is a power imbalance. This is a relationship where that imbalance already exists. And on top of that, there is this huge financial imbalance. And I feel like it's wise in a situation like that, perhaps, to restrain from the extravagant receiving of all of these gifts. Obviously, it's easier said than done. But
yeah, I think it's the Pandora's box which you once open. I mean, imagine coming as a nobody, not having a father growing up, and suddenly police officers are saluting you.
Yeah,
I mean, I can only imagine the pleasure one would get in that,
100%.
given where they come from. So I don't think there was any restraint on Madhumita's part, or any second thoughts about the money that she was getting.
I don't think that helped with the imbalance of power.
The fact that Amarmani flew in to get her out of this mess to Madhumita was a proof of his unwavering love. To others, like Aishwarya, it's a warning that she's now completely under his spell. Now, a few weeks later, Madhumita discovers that, lo and behold, she is pregnant. She tells Amarmani. He persuades, pressures her to abort the child. She complies. But there's one person who refuses to accept the affair. Amarmani's wife, Madhumani. At first, she dismisses Madhumita as just another passing fling. Her husband is known for his indiscretions. But as months turn into years, she realizes this is different. Madhumita isn't just another mistress. She is a threat. Madhumani confronts Madhumita. In broad daylight, she drives to her house and warns her. He never stays with one woman for long. You are just another distraction. Madhumita stands her ground. She believes Amarmani truly loves her and she isn't going anywhere. And so the battle between the two women intensifies. By late 2001, however, Amarmani's political career faces its biggest scandal yet. His name emerges in a high-profile kidnapping case. The BJP government sacks him. He's arrested. He lands in Gorakhpur jail. Madhumita, desperate, rushes to meet him. But she can't. Instead, she meets his mother, who embraces her. Quote, "You are better for my son than his wife." End quote. Madhumita is elated. And months pass. Amarmani, who's a politician, is somehow released on bail. And not just released, he wins the re-election. Madhumita celebrates his victory, believing their future is secure. She continues writing for him, advising him, standing by him. But as his political career soars, his time with her dwindles. He prioritizes Mayawati's government over their late-night meetings. Calls begin going unanswered. The visits grow shorter. The arguments more frequent.
This is just a more general question, Aryaan, like open to speculation by all of you listeners as well. But what is the end goal in a relationship where a partner is married?
Yeah.
And obviously in most situations, there are women who believe that that man will go on to divorce his wife. But in political families and political relationships specifically, men tend not to create scandals of those kinds, especially in conservative countries like India, by going through a divorce.
I'll kind of, I agree. By going through a divorce, they don't do it.
Yeah.
I think in UP, you would see this, it's, at least for the patriarch, so to say, it's okay to have a few families going here and there, and it's accepted. So despite being conservative and having all these values, they're just, they're horny politicians who have no control over their limbs, their emotions, and over their families. Now, by the middle of 2002, Madhumita is pregnant yet again. And yet again, Amarmani insists she abort this kid. This time, he makes a promise, however. Next time, I will marry you. I will give our child my name. And she believes him. She aborts. But soon, Madhumita senses the inevitable. She sees the distance growing. Her diary entries reflect her pain. She starts drinking, smoking. Her world, once glittering with promise, begins crumbling. A few days later, Madhumita had an unexpected visitor, Madhumani Tripathi. She arrived at Madhumita's residence, her face tight with anger. She stormed inside, her voice sharp and filled with warning. Madhumani angrily says, quote, "Stay away from my husband, Madhumita. Do you think you can take my place? You will regret this." End quote. To this, Madhumita says, "He came to me, Madhumani. I never forced him." End quote. But Madhumani wasn't willing to listen. She threatened Madhumita, warning her of dire consequences if she did not end her affair with Amarmani. And truth be told, I understand. Her anger was at least understandable. What it presaged, however, wasn't. Friday, May 9th, 2003. The summer heat in Lucknow hangs thick in the air. Madhumita Shukla, a 24-year-old poet, is at home in Lucknow's paper mill colony. Calls have been coming all morning, but around 11 am, she dials her mother in Lakhimpur to share her travel plans. She was supposed to leave the previous day but decided to stay back for a couple of more days. A last-minute decision, perhaps one sealed by fate. At 3 pm, the doorbell rings. Deshraj, a 13-year-old house help, opens the door to two young men. One of them introduces himself as Satya Prakash and hands over a slip of paper with Madhumita's name and number scribbled on it. Deshraj takes the note inside, and Madhumita's eyes light up as she reads her name. She pushes her plate aside, stands up, and walks briskly to the door. "Arey bhai sahab, aiye," she exclaims, welcoming the men into her bedroom. Her modest home, gifted to her by a powerful politician, tells a story of quiet luxury amidst simplicity. The furniture bears markings of the Public Work Department hand-me-downs from the minister's office. Inside, she reclines on the bed while her visitors settle onto the chairs. She instructs Deshraj to make tea and fetch water. As the boy steps into the backyard, one of the men bolts the door close. Madhumita doesn't react. She trusts them. She's been expecting them. Then the conversation takes a turn. They talk. Words are exchanged. Some firm, some urgent, but the mood shifts quickly. Before she can connect it, Satya Prakash lunges, his hands clammed over her mouth, pinning her down. A pistol is drawn. A shot is fired, but it misfires, striking the wall instead. Another shot fires this time, and the bullet pierces Madhumita's heart. The whirring of the water pump masks the sound. Madhumita gasps, blood soaking her gown. Her fingers tremble as she grips her phone. Quote, "Amar Mani, tumko sabak sikhayenge." Amar Mani, "I'll teach you a lesson," she whispers before collapsing. She's gone. The killers move fast. They bolt a door from the outside and slip away unnoticed. On a borrowed motorcycle, they ride through the hot afternoon streets to a PCO booth in Nishtaganj. 2 phone calls are made to Nautanwa. The conversation is brief, 55 seconds, and the job is done. Deshraj sets down the steaming tea and walks to Madhumita's door. It's bolted. "Didi, Didi," his voice echoes in the silence. No answer. Frowning, he places the tea aside and resumes his chores. But unease coils in his gut. Minutes later, he calls again. "Didi, Didi," but still nothing. Something isn't right. He drags his stool over, climbs up and peers through the ventilator. And his breath catches. Madhumita slumps near the door. Her nightgown soaked in blood. Her body is still, and the room is silent. Panic strikes. Deshraj stumbles back, heart hammering. He races to the front door, and it's locked from the outside. Desperate, he waves down a passing labourer, pleading for help. They force the door open, and he doesn't hesitate. He sprints, lungs burning, to Guru Nanak Market. He needs his uncle now, a rickshaw driver named Mangla Prasad, who he had put in Madhumita's service. One look at Deshraj's face, and he knows something terrible has happened. Together, they rush back. Inside, Mangla Prasad freezes at what he sees. The lifeless body, the blood pooling on the floor. His hands were trembling as he dials Madhumita's mother in Lakhimpur. Quote, "Didi is hurt. She's bleeding." Madhumita's mother gasps, then frantically dials her other daughter, Nidhi. But no answer. Her hands shake as she calls Najib Khan, a man she trusts, a man who knows the danger Madhumita lived with. Quote, "Go to the paper mill colony flat." Meanwhile, the neighbors remain indifferent. No one heard gunshots. No one saw a struggle. Najib arrives 45 minutes later, just as Nidhi was returning from shopping. It's nearly 5:30 p.m. Inside, silence hangs heavy in the air. Deshraj stands frozen. Blood is now soaking into the floorboards, and Madhumita's blue and white nightgown clings to her motionless form. Her eyes wide, unseeing. Nidhi gasps, then collapses beside her own sister. She presses a trembling hand against Madhumita's cheek. Cold. Sobbing, she cradles the body, rocking gently as if she can still will life back into her. But then realization settles. She lays Madhumita down, places a pillow beneath her head, and forces herself to stand.
Why is nobody calling a doctor?
Doctor, yeah.
What is going on?
Because they all know who's involved.
So?
It's kind
scary
of,
to them.
It's you don't want to call the wrong person. Because if you call the wrong person, people know she is going out with Amar Mani.
Mm-hmm.
If you call the wrong doctor, because all the doctors and medics she knows are government people, Amar Mani's people.
Mm-hmm.
Would they be able to get rid of the evidence? Like, what would happen? There's just shock. And also, the only person right now at the scene is a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
He's a 13-year-old
There was
boy.
no way of saving her. Like, there's no way out of the situation.
No, she was dead. She was dead.
Yeah. Once she was shot.
Once
like,
she
there
was
no
shot, and she
solution.
whispered that final sort of threat. Her life ended there and then, because it was right into the heart, and the autopsy report was revealed it was through the heart. But finally, Nidhi thought exactly what Ash did. She said, quote, "Get a doctor." Najib bolted out of the door. He returned half an hour later, jaw clenched. No doctor will come. Blood soaks into Nidhi's clothes. She stumbles back, swaying. Then she takes a breath. A decision hardens in her eyes. She changes out of the bloodied salwar suit, shoves it into a bed box, and picks up the phone. Madhumita is gone. Now Najib doesn't hesitate. We have to call the police. But Nidhi falters. Her voice barely a whisper. What will they do? If they come, Madhu's body will disappear. Najib's expression darkens. If we don't call them, Amar Mani walks free. End quote. Reluctantly, they leave for Nishtaganj police station. It's nearly 7 p.m. The inspector listens, then moves fast. Within minutes, he's at the crime scene. His gaze lands on the nameplate. Madhumita Shukla. His breath hitches. He knows who frequents this flat. The implications are immediate. He reaches for his radio, calls his superiors. Senior Superintendent of Police Anil Agarwal arrives, flanked by SP Crime Branch Rajesh Pandey and other officials. Inside, the scene is frozen in time. Madhumita lies sprawled, arms outstretched. The swell of her pregnancy is unmistakable. And yet, the room tells no story of struggle. No overturned furniture, no signs of forced entry, only silence. The SSP turns sharply to Nidhi. Quote, "You returned at 5 p.m. Why wait 2 hours to call the police? Why didn't you dial 100? Nidhi's hands shake. Her voice barely holds. "I need to speak in private." The SSP studies her, then nods. He leads her away. What she reveals next changes everything. The SSP pulls Nidhi aside. Her hands tremble as she recounts the last 2 hours, her voice barely above a whisper. Inside the flat, investigators comb through the crime scene, snapping photos, marking evidence, and recording every grim detail. The air thickens with tension as journalists now push their way in, cameras flashing, pens scribbling. The truth is unraveling faster than anybody could anticipate. In all this mayhem, a crumpled page goes unnoticed, and it's a final desperate plea in Hindi. Quote, "Respected God, how unbearable must it be to realize that someone you loved never truly cared, that they now want to sever all ties. Give me the strength to endure this agony." End quote. Outside, sirens wail. Blue and red beacons pierce through the paper mill colony's maze-like lanes, leading reporters straight to the crime scene. The once quiet flat now overflows with uniformed officers, forensic teams, and a relentless media storm. Madhumita's lifeless body is wrapped in a shroud, sealed, and sent to King George Medical University for a postmortem. Meanwhile, officers bundle Nidhi, Najib, Deshraj, and Mangla Prasad into police vehicles. The interrogation starts immediately. "Who is Satya Prakash?" an officer demands. Nidhi shakes her head. "I don't know." By now, Madhumita's mother and brother have also arrived from Lakhimpur. They sit in the interrogation room when suddenly Nidhi's phone rings. A voice on the other end speaks casually, oblivious to the horror unfolding. And then comes a sharp, mocking laugh. To this laugh, Nidhi says, quote, "आज तो हंस रहे हो, मगर आगे चल के तुमको रोना पड़ेगा. सब कुछ खत्म होने पर पूछ रहे हो कैसे हैं? आप ही के लोगों ने उसे खत्म कर दिया. You are laughing now, but you will cry later. Everything is over, and you're asking how we are? It was your people who finished her." End quote. She cuts the call, heart pounding. The officers exchange glances. Minutes later, the phone rings again. Nidhi refuses to answer, but the officers insist. This time, when she picks up, her fury erupts. Her mother snatches the phone, voice shaking with rage. She hurls abuses at the minister before disconnecting the call. If it's not obvious to you, it was Amar Mani on the other line. A journalist now steps forward cautiously with a microphone in his hand. The cameras are rolling and Nidhi's voice cracks as she speaks. "Yes, it is because of Amar Mani Tripathi that my sister is dead. He loved her. They planned to marry. His wife Madhumani was furious and swore to get her killed." End quote. Tears streamed down her face. "Don't ask me anything more or I too will be killed," she said. But why would Nidhi put the blame on Amar Mani? Wasn't he the family's caretaker, the provider? He had arranged a job for Madhumita's brother. He had supported them, given them financial stability. Why would he want her dead? Inside the flat, officers pry open Madhumita's cupboard and damning evidence spills out. Unused railway and air travel coupons bear Amar Mani's name. Boarding passes read Mrs. AM. Photographs show intimate moments. His neatly folded clothes lie inside. A stack of 80,000 rupees, her poetry earnings, disappears without a trace. And then inside the house, the police finds 5 magnetic keys, later traced to rooms in Delhi's Taj and Oberoi hotels, where Amar Mani and Madhumita secretly met. Officers uncover medical reports under the name Mrs. A.M. Tripathi, pregnancy checkups. Was Madhumita carrying his child? Who knew? A spiral diary emerges. Officers flip through the pages and their faces harden at what they find. I know I'm a target, she had written. Page after page details the collapse of her relationship with a man named Victor, which was her private name for Amar Mani. His wife threats, his growing distance, her refusal to abort their child, and the fear tightening around her like a noose. As the investigation deepens, so does the pressure. Amar Mani, racing towards Lucknow, floods top police officials with calls. His orders are clear: bury this case. SP Rajesh of the crime branch sees the storm coming. He has battled Amar Mani before, blocking his land grab attempt, arresting him in a kidnapping case. He knows exactly how this ends. Quote, "Sir, if I take this case, I will be blamed from the start. Keep me out of it." So the SSP agrees. Pandey walks away. And then the cover-up begins. 3 crucial diary pages vanish before the CID even takes over. Madhumita's 2 mobile phones, which were registered under Amar Mani's name, that hold damning evidence, also disappear. His 6 personal numbers dominate her call logs, but journalists refuse to let the truth disappear. At the mortuary, silence looms. Madhumita's body lies cold and untouched. Officials announce the postmortem will be conducted in the morning. The crowd, comprising of journalists, police, and a devastated family, refuse to leave the body alone. Nidhi sits numb at a tea stall with Najib, her mother, and her brother. As midnight nears, hidden from the cameras, Amar Mani slips into the shadows behind the mortuary, where he finds Madhumita's mother. His voice is calm and measured. Quote, "जो होना था, सो हो गया. अब बात और क्यों बिगाड़ कर अपना नुकसान कर रहे हो? चुपचाप रहोगे तो सब ठीक हो जाएगा. What's done is done. Why make things worse? Stay quiet and everything will be fine." End quote. Now it's morning and Nidhi and her family head to Najib's home to freshen up. At 10:30 am, the postmortem begins, and in 10 minutes, it's over. But something is wrong. The fetus remains inside. Police orders are clear. No DNA testing. DNA testing that would have otherwise helped in ascertaining who the actual father of the child was. At 1:30 pm, Madhumita's body is placed in a van. Her family begins the journey home. They've barely traveled 20 kilometers when sirens wail behind them. A police jeep swerves into view. "Turn around. Take the body back to Lucknow." The order is non-negotiable. The SSP has changed his mind now. The fetus must be removed. It is the key to providing the motive behind the murder. The family protests. The officers refuse to listen. They have their orders. By 3 pm, Madhumita's body is back on the mortuary table. The fetus, a male child, is extracted. The family watches, helpless. At 8:30 pm, night now, her body is finally returned. This time, no one stops them. They take her back to Lakhimpur, and the next morning, flames rise. Madhumita's mortal remains turn to ash, but the fire she started, the truth she left behind, refuses to die. Police officials are in Lucknow while Madhumita's body is consigned to flames in Lakhimpur. But there is this pressure on the police officials to wrap up this case. The first crucial evidence to vanish is a handwritten slip brought by the killers listing Madhumita's name, address, and phone number, as well as the inventory of the recovered items makes no mention of it. Photographs of Madhumita with Amar Mani are also removed, along with 3 pages from her diary. The police failed to summon a dog squad to track the killer's escape, or lift fingerprints from the crime scene, or conduct a basic DNA testing on Madhumita's fetus. Statements from key witnesses, including servant Deshraj and Nidhi, remain unrecorded. On May 11th, Amar Mani holds a press conference at his Lawrence Terrace residence, inviting media representatives. Confident and dismissive, he brushes off accusations. Quote, "I met Madhumita at a Kavi Sammelan in Gorakhpur 3 years ago. I have an interest in literary activities and meet many people. I haven't seen her in months." End quote, he declared. He dismisses Nidhi's statements where she was blaming his wife, alleging media pressure. Quote, "This is a political conspiracy by Samajwadi Party leaders Mulayam Singh Yadav and Amar Singh to frame and attack Mayawati," he claimed. Playing into Mayawati's hostility towards Samajwadi leaders, he seeks her support. "Behenji, I'm being framed because of my association with you. The media is targeting me at Mulayam Singh's behest," he pleads. Mayawati reassures him. boosting his confidence to publicly deny all allegations. Inevitably, journalists confront him about his personal mobile number appearing in Madhumita's call records over and over again. But according to him, quote, anyone can save a politician's number. That doesn't make me guilty of murder, he retorted. When asked about demands for a CBI inquiry, he scoffed. Why stop at CBI? Let IB and RAW investigate too. His remark reveals either ignorance or desperation, as RAW has no role in criminal cases. Frustrated, he snaps at a journalist. Who are you? A police officer? Meet me after this press conference if you have a problem. His arrogance backfires, motivating journalists to intensify their investigation. For 113 days, Madhumita's murder dominates headlines, with journalists exposing new details daily. A police official later admits, for the first time, the media led the investigation. Without them, this case would have been buried in a week. End quote. Ash, usually in these cases, we scoff at the media for getting involved too quickly, for the media for blowing things out of proportion. It's usually them that mislead at least the public narrative.
Sure.
And in this case, if there weren't the media,
there's nobody else who can do anything. 100%. And it's commendable that the work that they're doing. And I'm sure it's still not easy. Like, it's not easy when all doctors in a town are saying, we're not going to come to see the body here. I'm sure the media also faces repercussions of reporting on high-profile cases. But yeah, these are cases where you commend them.
On May 11th, a TV channel reveals Madhumita's mobile phone records showing 41 calls between her and Amar Mani in the 24 hours before her murder. The next day, Lucknow journalists receive calls from her recovered number, now inexplicably in Amar Mani's possession. Police secretly hand him the SIM card, erasing crucial evidence. With investigation at a standstill, opposition party demands his resignation. Madhumita's family in Lakhimpur faces relentless pressure. They withdraw from the media and later release a statement exonerating Amar Mani. They claim Madhumita was never pregnant and accuse officials of implanting a fetus in her body to tarnish her reputation. Meanwhile, journalists interview Deshraj, who reveals that he twice accompanied Madhumita to Amar Mani's residence. He recalls overhearing her argue with the woman he referred to as Moti, later identified as Madhu Mani, Amar Mani's wife. After the interview airs, Deshraj is swiftly taken into police custody, and officials responsible for permitting the interview face reprimands. Like Aishwarya says, even the media was facing pressure. On May 14th, Lucknow police makes a secret attempt to remove evidence from Madhumita's sealed flat. 2 plainclothed constables, accompanied by a locksmith, break in and spend 40 minutes inside before fleeing with a black bag. Journalists expose the intrusion, further discrediting the UP police. On May 16th, Mayawati calls Amar Mani. 3 hours later, a white ambassador car arrives at Madhumita's Lakhimpur home. A stocky man, accompanied by 4 plainclothes officers, collects a letter from a mother addressed to Mayawati, requesting the CBCID to take over the case, citing a lack of faith in Lucknow police. When journalists confront her, she pleads, "Please spare us. Our lives are in danger." The BJP, now embarrassed by the scandal ahead of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's Lucknow visit on May 20th, pressures Mayawati to take action. On May 16th, BJP President Venkaiah Naidu demands visible action to defuse the crisis. The axe finally falls on the investigating team. SSP Anil Agarwal is transferred for suggesting the exhumation of Madhumita's body to retrieve the fetus for DNA testing. SP Rajesh Pandey is removed at Amar Mani's insistence. The state government swiftly hands over the case to the CBCID, but skepticism runs high. The officers on this case have one goal: to find the truth. Deshraj describes one of the attackers, and soon a computer-generated sketch is released. The name Satya Prakash surfaces. The CID scours police records, identifying 3 men by that name in Gorakhpur and Lucknow. 2 are detained, questioned, but no leads emerge. The real killer is still out there. Meanwhile, forensic teams move quickly. The fetus in Madhumita's womb is sent to the Central Forensic Laboratory in Hyderabad. The goal is clear: establish paternity. A sample of Madhumita's mother's blood is also taken to verify the fetus's identity, ensuring no questions or tampering arises later. Just days into the investigation, a new angle emerges. On May 18th, 2 news channels air an explosive claim: Madhumita was secretly married. A priest, Pandit Gagan Narayan Dikshit, insists he conducted her wedding to a man named Anuj Misra in November 2002. If true, the unborn child could be Anuj's.
मैं इसी मंदिर पर पड़ा था, उसकी बहन आई रिक्शा से, उसने कहा कि पंडित जी हमारी कथा कर दीजिए। जब वहाँ पहुँचे घर पर, तो हमने कहा लाओ आटा आटा चौक पूरे सिंहासन बनाओ। तो उसने कहा कि पंडित जी शादी कराना है, कथा नहीं है। इस लड़के के भी माँ बाप जो हैं वो दिल्ली में रहते हैं, नहीं आ सके हैं, आप कृपा करके मेरी शादी करवा दीजिए। मैंने उनकी शादी करवाई भाई कहने पर।
This case takes a sharp turn. The CID moves fast. Anuj Misra is an IIT Kanpur student who is in Delhi about to board a flight to Singapore. Investigators intercept him just in time. He looks baffled when they question him. He says, no, he never married Madhumita. No romantic involvement, no connection. The officers decide to keep the information under wraps. They instruct Anuj not to reveal the questioning to anyone, not even his family. Someone, somewhere, is pushing a false narrative. The CBCID wants to see where it leads. Even as the CID stays silent, Anuj's family faces a storm. In Lucknow, police officers not officially part of the case start pressuring him. SHO Yagya Narayan Dikshit, a senior officer, calls the family in for questioning. When they refuse to acknowledge any marriage, the intimidation escalates. Anuj's friend, Rishi Khare, also an IIT student, is detained. For 3 days, he faces relentless questioning, even alleged physical coercion. But he doesn't break. His statement remains firm. There was no marriage. Meanwhile, Pandit Dikshit, the priest who made the wedding claim, begins contradicting himself in media interviews. His story crumbles, and then, out of nowhere, he disappears. Back at Madhumita's flat, a surprising find adds to the mystery. A blouse scrawled with names: Amarmani, Madhumani, strange mantras around the writing. Was it love, devotion, a ritual of hope? Investigators don't know yet, but they logged the evidence carefully. The case kept picking up pace. A public interest litigation lands in the Allahabad High Court on May 22nd, pushing for a CBI probe. Opposition leaders raise the matter in Parliament. The case is no longer about justice. It is now a political storm. Finally, on June 19th, CID officers arrive at the residence of Amarmani Tripathi. He receives them calmly. The questioning begins. Did he know Madhumita? Yes, he says. They met a few years ago. Had he spoken to anyone from Lucknow on May 9th? No. The officers slide a document across the table. Phone records. It shows incoming and outgoing calls from Lucknow that day. He's silent. Had he ever given Madhumita financial support? No. Another document appears. Bank statements. A refrigerator and a washing machine were purchased on May 2nd. Delivery address: Madhumita's flat. The room is now tense. The questions continue and the investigation reaches a critical point. The evidence is all lined up in front of the politician. The final pieces are about to fall into place. What really happened on May 9th? Who ordered the killing? And why? The answers are just around the corner. The CID then calls Nidhi and Mrs. Shanti Shukla to Lucknow to record their statements before the Chief Judicial Magistrate. But Nidhi refuses. She fears for her life and demands security before she agrees. She also warns that if the CBCID clears the suspects, she will stage a dharna in Lucknow to demand a CBI inquiry. Meanwhile, Mayawati, the Chief Minister of the state, returns to India and meets the Prime Minister in Delhi. Under mounting pressure, she was asked to transfer the case to the CBI. On June 14th, she arrives in Lucknow and holds a press conference. She carefully words her stance. If Madhumita's family requests it in writing, I am ready to order a CBI inquiry. It's a calculated move. She keeps all options open, unwilling to be seen as backing down. Madhumita's brother, Vijay Shukla, reacts with relief. We are thankful to the Chief Minister for accepting our demand. We are immediately faxing a letter to her. Now, we finally have hope that my sister's killer will be brought to justice, he tells journalists over the phone. But for 48 hours, the CM's secretariat remains silent. Has the letter been received? No one knows. Then on June 17, just hours before the CID's 1-month deadline, Madhumita's family breathes easy. The CBI steps in. However, Madhumita's mother, Shanti Shukla, refuses to clear Amarmani's name. Why should I? That's for the CBI to decide, she says. The very next day, another twist shakes the case. The governor and the Director General of Police receive a fax, allegedly from Madhumita's mother, stating that she never named Amarmani and even suggested that the government honor the sacked minister. The government, now wary, sends a police inspector to verify the facts. But when he arrived at the family's home, the Shukla shut the door on their faces, refusing to comment. Months later, the family reveals the truth. They were pressured, yet again, with violence, to clear Amarmani's name. On June 24th, a CBI team, led by DIG Loknath Behra, arrives in Lucknow. The CID office gates shut tight as media crowds outside, waiting in the scorching heat. After hours of discussion, the CBI officially takes over the case, inheriting 3 sackfuls of documents and a detailed 46-page CID report. The final act of this high-profile murder case begins. But just as the CBI gets to work, Mayawati stirs another controversy. She suspends the Director General of the CID, Mahendra Lalka, and the Superintendent of Police, Amitabh Yash, citing laxity in the investigation. Basically, what Mayawati was trying to do was to show that, listen, I'm a woman and I get this issue and it's so bad, and now I'll take all these redundant steps to show I care about it. But all this while, she's been supporting the guy who orchestrated the murder. Meanwhile, the CBI wastes no time. A team rushes to Lakhimpur to question Madhumita's family. Another team heads to Bairak to bring back Deshraj, the young 13-year-old boy, the servant, who was the sole eyewitness to the murder. For the first time, the Shukla family speaks freely. With no state government interference, they reveal everything to the CBI. Quote, they were polite, professional, and determined. This time, we weren't afraid of our words reaching Amar Mani, Madhumita's mother says. But Amar Mani is not one to go down without a fight. On June 26th, he holds a massive rally in his constituency. And there he plays the victim card, blaming the Samajwadi Party for framing him. The opposition wants to bring down the Mayawati government by targeting me, he declared. He accuses Mulayam Singh Yadav and Amar Singh of conspiring against him. It's a desperate attempt to politicize the case, but the media is not interested. The rally barely gets any coverage except from a few friendly news channels. Meanwhile, the CBI intensifies its probe. Deshraj reconstructs the murder, the scene. Investigators dig deeper, preparing fresh identity sketches of the killers. A surprise discovery shocks everyone. The CBI seizes 11 of Madhumita's undergarments from her apartment and sends them for DNA testing in Hyderabad. They suspect political interference in the handling of her unborn child's DNA sample and want to ensure no evidence has been tampered with. Then, in mid-July, the breakthrough comes. The CBI obtains telephone records from BSNL. A pattern emerges. Calls from Madhumani Tripathi's mobile linked to Rohit Chaturvedi, Amar Mani's cousin. Rohit, in turn, frequently contacts Santosh Pandey, whose family has deep ties to the underworld and political circles. The connections became clear. It's a weird tree and a web of lies. Between May 6th and 9th, Santosh Rai repeatedly calls Rohit Chaturvedi. After every call, Rohit immediately dials Madhumani, who then contacts Madhumita's neighbors Manvendra Pratap Singh. The pattern repeats like clockwork, like they were trying to figure out what Madhumita's schedule was. When questioned, Manvendra admits it. Madhumani, Amar Mani's wife, had manipulated him. She played the role of a betrayed wife, gaining his sympathy and used it to spy on Madhumita. She wanted to know if Amar Mani visited her. By early August, the CBI tracks down Santosh Rai to Lucknow University's Chandrasekhar Azad Hotel, where he has been hiding with a friend. As they close in, another angle emerges, linking back to the 13-year-old boy's kidnapping case from 2001, where Amar Mani's involvement had already been proven. The CBI looks for connections but finds none. On August 13, the investigation reaches a turning point. The CBI summons Amar Mani to their Lucknow office, and at first he cooperates by answering questions in room 211. But then comes the bombshell request: DNA testing. Panic flushes across his face. So far, we have Madhumita's DNA and the fetus's DNA, but the only way to verify who the father was by getting Amar Mani's blood so that his DNA could be found too. He fumbles for his phone, desperate to call his lawyer Rakesh Dwivedi, but the call doesn't go through. He looks at the officers and hesitates. What happens if I refuse, he asks. If you refuse, we'll take you into custody and get the sample anyway, a CBI officer replies. Cornered, Amar Mani agrees, but with conditions. I will give my blood sample in Delhi, not here. If I do it in Lucknow, the media will splash it everywhere. It will be embarrassing for me. The CBI agrees. That same day, Amar Mani flies to Delhi with the CBI team. At Safdarjung Hospital, doctors take his blood sample. The CBI sends it to Hyderabad for DNA fingerprinting, and now they wait. When the DNA report arrives, it delivers the final blow. Clear proof that Amar Mani Tripathi is the father of Madhumita's unborn child. The truth is out, and the walls are closing in. Now there is no escape. When the case unfolds, Rohit's statements reveal something even more chilling. Madhumani wasn't just aware of the murder. It was her, the wife, who was the one who orchestrated it. She was the one who ensured the plan was set in motion, the one who fueled the hatred, the one who pushed for the kill. Madhumani, Amar Mani's wife, had just learned about Madhumita's pregnancy.
Okay, Aryaan, all of that is well and good, but he had asked her to get an abortion and she had agreed, right?
The second time, yeah.
This is the third time.
This is the third time she's pregnant, where he said, I promise to make you my wife and give the child my name.
And so instead of again trying to manipulate his way out of it, the next best course was murder.
So no, it was the inability to manipulate his way out of it, and also his wife finding out about the pregnancy this time.
Which she didn't know the first
And then she
times.
orchestrated the murder in terms of fueling it and also helping out with the planning. So it was those two things combined.
I got it.
For years, she had tolerated her husband's infidelities, believing them to be temporary flings. But this is different. A child changes everything. It threatens her status, her family's inheritance, and her control over Amarmani. She's furious, enraged, and desperate, and she wanted Madhumita gone. Her outburst wasn't just about jealousy, it was about survival. If Madhumita gives birth, the scandal could destroy everything. That night, as she paced the floor of their Lucknow home, she turned to somebody she could trust, her husband's cousin, Rohit Chaturvedi. It starts with a casual conversation. Rohit visits the Tripathi home, as he often does. Madhumati, still seething, doesn't waste time. Quote, Usko nipta do. Finish her. Rohit is taken aback. Kill her? But Madhumani is serious. Her eyes burn with anger. She paints Madhumita as a homewrecker, a woman trying to steal their fortune. She insists that Madhumita's death is the only way to protect the family. Rohit hesitates, but not for long. Days pass and the rage doesn't subside. Madhumati keeps pressuring Rohit. She badgers him, reminding him of all the time she helped him. She needs action, not excuses. And Rohit finally caves. He knows that he can't do it, so he turns to Santosh Rai, a former student leader from Gorakhpur, a man eager to curry favor with the powerful Amarmani Tripathi. Santosh wants a future in politics, and he knows that earning Amarmani's trust could be the stepping stone he needs. When Rohit lays out the plan, Santosh listens carefully. He doesn't flinch. All he asks is, Kitne ka kaam hai? How much? Rohit doesn't hesitate either. 2 lakh. 2 lakh rupees. The money was arranged, and he knows just the man for the job. A small-time criminal named Prakash Chandra Pandey, a man who's already had run-ins with the police, and a man who will kill for the right price. But here's the most chilling part itself. And if you think Amarmani is innocent, he is also looped in on the plan. On May 6, Rohit visits Amar's official residence, and by now Amarmani is a nervous wreck. He knows Madhumita's pregnancy is no longer a secret, and he can feel the walls closing in. When Rohit tells him about the plan, he listens in silence. Then Amarmani gives his final word. Quote, Kaam sahi se hona chahiye. It should be done properly. End quote. He doesn't protest. He doesn't ask for an alternative. He lets it happen. The man who once adored Madhumita now signs her death warrant with just a few words. May 6th, 2003, Lucknow. Prakash Chandra Pandey arrives in the city. He's been paid 50,000 rupees up front. The rest will come after the job. That night, Rohit meets him and Santosh Rai at a small tea stall near IT college. He hands them Madhumita's address. Bas ek baar kaam ho jaye, fir sab theek ho jayega. Once the job is done, everything will be fine. The plan is simple. Enter the house, shoot her, leave no loose ends. Between May 6th and May 8th, the tension rises. Madhumani and Rohit are in constant touch. Calls are made, details are confirmed. Santosh Rai and Prakash Chandra Pandey make their first attempt to enter Madhumita's home, but she isn't there. They back off, waiting for the right moment.
So Aryaan, he never intended on marrying her, did he?
No, obviously not. I mean, yeah, I don't think the divorce was ever likely. It was a delaying tool. I don't think he wanted to kill her initially either.
Right.
Like, it wasn't that, oh, third pregnancy, I'll kill you.
But when the idea presented itself.
But when the idea
later.
presented itself, all planned out, served in a silver plate, admin entirely by his wife, he's like, all right, I mean...
But it seems so far-fetched to know that, like, that your affair is out in the open in political circles. Not out in the open, but enough people know about it. There is a child in this woman's womb that can be DNA tested to prove the affair. There is so much record of the kind of favors you've incurred to her, and yet you think you can get away with it?
So, you think you can get away with it only because you're a powerful politician. I think you think you have the law in your hands, and he did.
For the longest
For the longest time, he did.
Yeah.
So, I think, his bet, I think, mostly paid off. Finally, on December 19th, 2003, just a day before the 90-day deadline expired, the CBI filed the charge sheet against Amarmani Tripathi, Rohit Chaturvedi, Santosh Rai, Prakash Chandra Pandey, and Sub-Inspector Yagyanarayan Dikshit in the CBI Special Court. The 16-page charge sheet names Madhumani Tripathi as an absconder and lists 202 witnesses. All the men are arrested, but Madhumani remains on the run. In March 2004, a tip-off leads the CBI to believe she is hiding in Bangkok with relatives. The agency approaches Interpol requesting a red corner notice for her arrest. Meanwhile, all Indian airports receive a lookout notice. Sensing the pressure, Madhumani's lawyer files an application claiming she is willing to surrender, but needs 3 weeks to do so. It's a clear stalling tactic. Then, on March 25th, something happens that's right out of the films. She suddenly appears on the CBI court, catching the agency off guard. But her surrender doesn't come quietly. As soon as she steps out of her lawyer's car at the courthouse, DSP Hari Singh moves in. Quote, "You are under arrest," he announces, as would any officer. Madhumani, however, has other plans. She breaks free, dashes up the stairs and rushes into the courtroom, flanked by a team of lawyers, 2 brother-in-laws and a mob of supporters. Inside, her lawyers turn the tables, accusing the CBI officer of manhandling her. Quote, "He grabbed her arm, pulled her sari and even broke her Mangal Sutra," end quote. Outside, chaos erupts. Madhumani's supporters attack journalists, hurl abuses and issue threats. The CBI pushes for custodial interrogation, but her legal team fiercely opposes it. The court sends her to 14 days of judicial remand, where she reunites with her husband Amar Mani in the quarantine barracks. This was a major victory for CBI. They had now cracked one of the most sensational murder cases in recent times and exposed the chilling nexus between crime and politics. Everybody on the CBI charge sheet had been given life imprisonment. But that was not the end. Yes, justice had spoken for Madhumita Shukla. Yes, Amar Mani Tripathi, the powerful politician who orchestrated her brutal murder, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. But what followed was not justice. It was a meticulously crafted deception, a cruel joke played on those who believed in the system and who believed that he would be held accountable. For Amar Mani, prison was never a punishment. It was merely a change of scenery. He understood power and how to manipulate the system, and he used every trick in the book. At first, he was lodged in Haridwar jail, but he wasted no time pulling strings. By 2012, he had ordered a transfer to Gorakhpur Divisional Jail. Wonder why? Well, it was conveniently close to his political stronghold. The official reason? Court hearings. The real reason? Proximity to power. He needed to stay connected, to continue running his empire from the shadows. And then came the biggest scam of all. Over the next 10 years, Amar Mani spent a mere 16 months in an actual prison cell. 16 months! That's 1.5 years. The rest of his so-called imprisonment was nothing more than a staged spectacle. Under the pretense of medical treatment, he secured an indefinite stay at the private ward of BRD Medical College in Gorakhpur. But this wasn't a hospital stay. It was an alternative command center, a fortress where he ruled from behind a mask of illness. Eyewitnesses describe a surreal scene. Politicians, bureaucrats, and power brokers streamed in and out of his hospital room as if it were a minister's office. Late night meetings, secret phone calls, whispered negotiations. Amar Mani continued conducting business as usual. Shockingly, his wife, who also was sentenced to prison, Madhumani, was allowed to stay with him in the hospital ward, turning it into their private residence. The convicted murderer of a young woman did not just escape justice, he thrived. Rumors soon spread that his so-called confinement was a complete sham. Locals whispered about him taking clandestine trips, visiting his constituency, making brief but strategic appearances at even home. If he was truly bedridden, how was he operating like a free man? Then came a moment that made it all undeniable, infuriatingly undeniable. In 2015, then Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav visited BRD Medical College. His convoy stopped near Amar Mani's private ward. What was discussed inside remains unknown, but the message was clear. Amar Mani's influence was not only intact, it was thriving. The system that was supposed to punish him had instead bent to his will. While Amar Mani enjoyed his privileges, Madhumita's family spiraled into ruin. Her brother Vijay refused to marry. His wedding had been set just a week before her murder, and to him the moment was forever cursed. The mention of my marriage led to her death. "I won't marry now," he said. Her sister Nidhi lost all trust and love. "If my sister, an independent, educated woman, could be deceived like this, how can I ever trust a man?" The government, once eager to use Madhumita's murder for political mileage, abandoned them completely. No financial aid that was promised arrived, no politician came forward. Vijay, now jobless and struggling, watched in silent fury as the same leaders who once promised justice now shook hands with his sister's murderer. Quote, "When Mayawati was CM, Amar Mani was her favourite. We didn't dare ask for help. Then Mulayam Singh Yadav came and he protected Amar Mani even more. We have lost everything, but no politician cares. Where do we go now? End quote. Outside their home in Lakhimpur, 4 policemen stand ground, but their presence does not bring a sense of safety. To the family, the officers weren't protectors. They were spies. We don't know who to trust anymore. We are bracing for the worst. When Amar Mani walks free, we don't know what will happen. And then came the final betrayal. August 2023. The system bent to Amar Mani's will once more. His remission application, which should have taken months, was approved overnight. Within hours, the formalities were completed. And the next day, he simply walked out of BRD Medical College a free man. He had ordered a young woman's cold-blooded execution. He had shattered her family and he walked away unscathed. Meanwhile, Madhumita's mother, Shanti Shukla, sits in silence, staring at her daughter's faded photograph. Each time the court heard his bail plea, her heart sank. She already knew the outcome before the judgment was announced. She had seen this play out before. She knew the system was broken. Quote, I lost my daughter, but the man who killed her must suffer too. He should know what it feels like to lose someone you love, to betray someone who trusted you. End quote. But he never would. Because in this country, justice doesn't belong to the weak. It belongs to the powerful.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Kadak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling so we can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.